It was a cold night when my boyfriend left me, and I was wandering outside. I gave my scarf to a homeless person, and it completely changed my not-so-great life. This story takes place about 40 years ago, back when there was no internet or mobile phones. My name is Amelia. I was 18 at the time, a senior in high school from a small town, dreaming of Los Angeles. One day, a group of 3 young men from Los Angeles arrived at my family's bed and breakfast. Naturally, we became friends. Just the fact they were from Los Angeles made them all seem so wonderful. They appeared 30% more charming. One of them, Caleb, and I got especially close, and we snuck away together on the night of a local festival. In a quiet alley behind a park, I experienced my first kiss. Caleb was 20, 2 years older than me. He lived alone in an apartment in Los Angeles. He worked as a sports instructor in Beverly Hills. He was average-looking, but tall and well-built, which made him very attractive. I knew it was just a summer romance, but when he left, he gave me his phone number on a piece of paper, telling me to call if I ever came to Los Angeles. I treasured that note, hiding it in my wallet. My parents probably expected me to help with the family bed and breakfast after graduating high school, but I defied them, and almost like running away from home, boarded a plane to Los Angeles. I was foolish, reckless, adventurous, not thinking about the future, I realize now. When I called Caleb, he was quite surprised, but came to pick me up at the airport. "Can't believe you actually came. Where do you want to go? I'll show you around." I wanted to see Hollywood in Los Angeles, a place I knew only from TV and magazines. Caleb said, "Leave it to me," and took me there. The streets were crowded with people walking incredibly fast, everyone fashionable and seeming to have fun. It was a Sunday, and we even encountered some celebrities in this celebrity-rich culture, which got me super excited. Caleb teased me for being a hick and embarrassing. But in reality, there were many other young men and women just like us sightseeing. We went to celebrity-owned shops, a hamburger joint, an ice cream shop, and I thought, so this is Los Angeles. It seemed like every day was a festival. "Where's your accommodation? I'll take you," he asked, wrapping his arm around my shoulder and pulling me close. "Hey, can I stay with you?" he whispered in my ear, not even trying to hide his ulterior motive. Since I had come from the countryside relying on a man, I was somewhat prepared for this. But when Caleb realized I wasn't just visiting for tourism, he held his head in his hands. "Seriously?" he said, then after a bit of thought, "Then how about coming to my place?" But the place we went to wasn't in Los Angeles. Caleb had lied about where he lived. He didn't live in an apartment in Los Angeles, but in an old wooden apartment in Orange County, near Los Angeles. He laughed it off as a light lie, told on a trip. And he wasn't a sports instructor in Beverly Hills, but worked in demolition. His toned body was a result of his daily physical labor. But the lies didn't stop there. Caleb had moved to the city right after middle school graduation from an area near my home in Alaska. Finding out Caleb was a 3-time liar was a shock, but I had nowhere else to go. I started living at Caleb's place, in a crash at someone's place kind of way, and we became sexually involved on the first night. It was far from the romantic experience I had imagined, but I was in no position to refuse. If I were kicked out, I'd have nowhere else to go. So I was thrilled to have my first boyfriend, Caleb. On his days off, we would be affectionate from morning till night. But there were challenges. Caleb's apartment had only a bathtub. It was 2 rooms, one about 198 square feet, and the other around 132 square feet. "There's a shower at the office, and there's a spa nearby, so I never really thought I needed one." But going to a spa 8 minutes away every day was a bit much. I wish we lived in a place with a proper shower. I sighed, and Caleb agreed. "Then let's save up and move." For now, I decided to work part-time at a Chinese restaurant near the station. Caleb was earning over $300,000 a month, but he spent it all on drinking and gambling. so we wouldn't save as much as we'd hoped. Living together, you start to see each other's flaws. "It makes sense for you to do the housework, since I earn more," Caleb would say, which annoyed me. To him, I was a nagging woman. I wasn't good at housework either. I ruined his favorite t-shirt with bleach, or turned clothes splotchy by washing colors together. At first, my cooking was bad too, serving unrecognizable dishes that made him frustrated. Caleb, on the other hand, would gamble away even the living expenses. I eventually snapped. "How much did you lose? You keep losing. Why don't you just stop?" "Shut up. It's my money. I'll spend it how I want." "We agreed to save together for moving. You can't just spend it however you want." "The problem is, you don't earn enough. Work at a night restaurant. You'd make more." "But I'm doing all the housework. Are you okay with me working at a night restaurant, interacting too much with other men?" "If it makes money, then sure. You're not popular with the opposite sex anyway." We'd argue like this. Then one of us would apologize, and we'd make up. It was a cycle. In a place far from home, without many acquaintances, we only had each other to rely on. We were a mutually dependent, dysfunctional couple. One month, my period was late. I had never been late before, so I told Caleb. His reaction was, "What? A baby? No way, it's too soon. Please, let's skip this time. It's better for both of us if we're married first, right? Let's get married once we've saved enough." The word marriage swayed me, but I yelled, "Then be responsible and use contraception." Caleb was never cooperative about contraception. The next day, my period came, and I realized I wasn't pregnant. But after that, things between us became awkward. Caleb started coming home late, often after drinking. He'd go out to play cards or poker, sometimes not returning home at all. We had started living together in the spring. Now our first winter together was approaching. I went to a craft store, bought wool, and knitted a scarf for Caleb. I remembered a popular book from my childhood about a poor couple who go to a spa using hand towels as scarves. They made a plan to go together, but somehow the man stayed in too long, and the woman had to wait. It's kind of like us now. I felt a little intoxicated as I identified with the story and myself. In the story, they live in a boarding house, about 10 feet by 10 feet. 10 feet by 10 feet, that's so small. Yeah, we're richer than them. We laughed. Thinking back on those times, I wish we could go back to how we were then. Thinking this, I decided to knit a scarf for Caleb as a gift. "Hey Caleb, we both have tomorrow off, right? Let's go to the spa, then grab some pizza and beer on the way back." I thought it was a pretty appealing plan, but Caleb's response was unenthusiastic. "I'm good. Why don't you go by yourself?" "What's up with you? You seem down. Lost at gambling again?" "I won't get mad. Let's go together." I was in a good mood. Having just finished knitting the scarf, I planned to give it to him when we got back from the spa. Plus, we were about to reach our goal of saving $10,000. A little celebration wouldn't hurt. Despite his reluctance, I dragged Caleb to the spa. Shoot. I might have made him wait too long. I wonder if Caleb's mad. My hair was still damp, but I hurried out of the spa. Caleb was waiting, hands in his pockets by the entrance. "Sorry, did you wait long?" He glanced at me, then looked away. "Are you mad? I said I'm sorry." "Amelia, I've met someone else. Can you move out of the apartment?" It took me a moment to understand what he was saying. "What? Are you joking?" But his expression told me it wasn't a joke. I felt a sudden chill. "I won't be back for 2 or 3 days, so please move out by then. See ya," he said, then ran off in the opposite direction of our apartment. I stood there stunned for a while. Returning to the apartment, still unable to comprehend the situation, another tragedy awaited. My banking and ATM cards were gone. Damn it! I didn't know whether to be angry or to cry. All I knew was that my fiancé had betrayed me, left me, and taken all my money. Unable to bear being alone, I wrapped the scarf I knitted for Caleb around my neck and went outside. Thinking about it, I realized I had no acquaintances other than Caleb and people from my part-time job, despite having moved to the city. What was the point of leaving my hometown? I felt utterly alone in the world. The neon lights near the station were decorated in Christmas colors. Everyone seemed happy. Suddenly, I sensed someone behind me and turned to see a homeless person collecting cans. In the cold December air, life on the streets must be tough. I took off the scarf and handed it to the man, saying, "Here, you can have this." I was surprised at my own action. Then, I ran back home. The next day I stayed in bed, hoping it was all a dream. Maybe Caleb would come back laughing. Of course, that didn't happen. Even if I wanted to leave, I didn't have the money to rent another apartment. All I had was less than $200 set aside for living expenses. There was a knock, but I ignored it, thinking it was probably a newspaper subscription salesperson. But the knocking persisted. "Enough with the newspaper!" I yelled.
"It's not about newspapers. Can we talk for a moment?"
A calm voice replied. I thought it might be a religious solicitation, but at that moment I was too arrogant and self-centered. I thought maybe I could vent to the religious person at the door. When I opened it, a man in his 40s wearing an expensive suit stood there, holding the familiar scarf, the one I had given to a homeless person yesterday.
"Your kindness was appreciated, but I'm not comfortable with handmade items like knitted scarves. They carry too much of the giver's emotions,"
he said, returning the scarf to me. I was utterly confused. Do scarves filled with emotions turn into monsters over the years? I did give that scarf to a stranger yesterday, but I don't remember giving it to you. I hadn't seen the man's face well since he was wearing a hood, but he definitely wasn't dressed this finely.
"Oh, that. It's just a hobby of mine."
A hobby? This made me even more confused. How did he know where I lived?
"You work at the Chinese restaurant near the station, right?"
That was true, but
"I've seen you around the station. I went to your restaurant, and they told me you had the day off. I checked for your address, lying that I was your uncle coming to check on his niece from the countryside."
He said this with a smile. Suspicious much? But he seemed harmless. Probably.
"By the way, did something happen? You gave a handmade scarf to a suspicious man, and now you look like you've been crying. If it's okay with you, I'll listen."
His unexpected offer and kind tone made me let my guard down. I didn't care if he was a religious fanatic or a weirdo. I invited him in, served him coffee, and poured out my heart.
"I understand. Let's go,"
he said after hearing my story. "Go? Where to?"
"To your ex-boyfriend's workplace. Let's get your money back."
Outside, a fancy car was parked, blocking the narrow alley. A well-known foreign car. Even I recognized it. Maybe this guy is dangerous. But I was starting to find it all intriguing. A hefty demolition supervisor told us Caleb would be back from the site soon, so we waited in the meeting room.
"What did that jerk do?"
The supervisor must have been confused. A well-dressed man in a luxury car and a young, unremarkable woman just showed up together? Caleb returned, and upon seeing me, yelled,
"What the hell? You?"
The man stood up and calmly said,
"The $10,000 you took belongs to her. Give it back to her." "What? Who the hell are you?"
I wanted to know that too.
"I don't have the money anymore. Gave it all back to Consumer Finance and my new girlfriend,"
Caleb said defiantly, as if he did nothing wrong. Hearing this, I felt defeated. Such a scumbag. "You're a real piece of work," I shouted.
"Shut up. I let you live with me, took care of you. You should be grateful, hick."
The supervisor, listening to all this, took out some money from the safe and handed it to me, saying,
"Is $10,000 all right?"
I was shocked.
"Hey, Caleb, this will be deducted from your salary. Understand?"
The supervisor roared at him with immense authority.
It's my money, too.
Caleb started yelling, but a glare from the man next to me silenced him.
This settles everything, right? Keep $5,000 as an apology for the trouble,
he said, and the man beside me just nodded silently. Confused, I left the office, hearing the supervisor's voice behind me.
Don't mess with dangerous women. You'll end your life if a mobster spots you.
Are you dangerous? Are you after this money? I asked the man, clutching the $10,000.
No misunderstanding. A black Benz does give that impression. Well, it's a good lesson for him.
I didn't care about the guy who dumped me anymore. I got into the man's car, and before I knew it, we were heading downtown. I was just enjoying the ride without any questions. We pulled into a parking lot of a fancy building in a chic area, and were greeted by a tall, beautiful woman. Hello, Noah. Long time no see. Brought another cute girl, I see. Her voice was deep. No breasts? A man, maybe? The man next to me seemed to be Noah.
She's a good one, right? Make her pretty,
Noah said to the tall woman, then waved and walked away. I was baffled.
Nice to meet you. Oh yes, you're definitely a diamond in the rough.
As the woman examined me from head to toe. Am I being sold? I asked nervously.
Do you think you'd sell?
I don't think so. I'm just a hick and not stylish, but I don't understand what Noah is up to. I felt out of place in my cheap sweater, jeans, and jacket. I explained everything to the tall woman.
I see. Your face is a bit swollen. A hobby? She said. Well, that might be true. He's Noah Taylor, a best-selling author. When you become famous, you're surrounded by celebrities, so sometimes he disguises himself to observe people from different perspectives.
That was a disguise? The tall woman continued.
This is also Noah's hobby. He brings girls from somewhere and transforms them. Just enjoy it. I'm a pro at makeup, by the way. Call me Quinn.
I couldn't understand any of it, but decided to go with the flow. While I was talking, Quinn's hands moved swiftly.
You know, you should shave your facial fuzz, and your eyebrows are a mess. Are you even trying to be a woman? But you do have beautiful skin for your age. I'm jealous.
She kept talking while working. It was my first time experiencing this, so I didn't know what was happening, but it must have been some sort of facial treatment.
Your hair is a bit too much. It would be better a bit lighter, but,
she said, cutting my hair, which I hadn't really styled since moving to the city.
The dress. Your skin is fair, so something pink might be cute. Your shoe size is 8 inches, right? You don't seem used to heels.
Transformed from head to toe by Quinn's hands, I looked like a completely different person. A pink mini dress with subtle lace, comfortable shoes with lower heels, definitely not something you'd find in the countryside. How much does this all cost? I wondered. Is this me? It's one of those lines every woman wants to say in front of a mirror. A fashion I'd never pull off normally suited me perfectly. The power of professional skills. The transformation makeup could achieve was astounding. I was deeply moved.
Bravo! What a transformation!
Noah clapped his hands in applause when he saw me.
You were a good raw gem. Now you're a lady I can take anywhere without shame.
Quinn looked pleased with her work.
Let's go, my Cinderella,
Noah said, taking my hand and leading me to a ball. In reality, it was Noah's book launch party at a famous hotel, but it was a completely different world for me. A large hall, dazzlingly decorated, exotic foods I had never seen before, and celebrities I thought I'd only see on TV. It was like a dream, but dreams end. Cinderella's magic dissolves when time comes. Instead of a magic carriage, a black Benz took me back to my shabby apartment.
Today was fun. Keep the dress and the shoes as gifts.
No, I can't accept this.
It's a bother if you return them. Take them as a thanks.
I didn't quite understand why. but I gratefully accepted.
Forget about that guy and be happy. Los Angeles isn't all bad,
he said, making me realize I had already forgotten about Caleb. Back in my room alone, I took off the dress and hung it up. It was out of place in my rundown apartment. After removing the makeup, the magic faded, and I saw my usual self in the mirror. Then, an idea struck me. Maybe I could cast magic on someone too. The next day, with the $10,000 in my bag, I started looking for real estate. I wanted to live in Beverly Hills, but I knew that was impossible. I found a studio apartment with a bath in San Francisco, near a bustling area called Long Beach. I quit the part-time job at the Chinese restaurant and started working at a lounge in the nearby busy area. I needed money. Resisting various temptations, I saved money and enrolled in a makeup art school in the spring. School during the day, part-time at the lounge at night. It was hard, but I managed with my youth. The part-time job at the lounge was a learning experience, and the senior ladies there let me practice what I learned at school. They were really kind to me. I felt guilty about Noah's name, so I never told anyone about him. But the story of the gentleman who helped me reclaim the $10,000 was well received by many. One night, while seeing off customers outside the lounge, I noticed a familiar, portly man walking down the street. It was the demolition supervisor from Caleb's workplace. We made eye contact and greeted each other, but at first he didn't recognize me.
"You've become so beautiful, I hardly recognized you,"
he said. According to the supervisor, Caleb had been sweating day and night to pay off his debts. His new girlfriend had quickly left him, but I no longer had much interest in him. After graduating from school and mastering the basics, I went to Quinn and begged to be taken on as a trainee. Quinn was initially surprised and refused, saying, "I don't take trainees." But after my persistent pleading, she gave in. "All right, you win. Not a trainee, but an assistant. You'll handle the heavy lifting." Now, about 40 years later, I was being interviewed in my high-rise apartment in Beverly Hills for a magazine feature about successful women in the fashion industry. "So, it was thanks to Quinn and Noah Taylor that you, Amelia, are where you are today. Do you consider yourself lucky?" "Yes, I do. I was very lucky. If I hadn't given my scarf to Noah that night, if I hadn't opened the door when he came looking for me, I wouldn't be where I am today." It's amazing how a small moment can change one's life so drastically. But perhaps miracles and luck happen more often than we think. It's up to each person to notice them, to choose them or not. After all, we are the main characters in the drama of our lives.